Modern Market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. And that means today we get to talk about the price of crypto assets going up. We are excited to do that. We're going to talk about the third largest on record ETF week last week, $3.4 billion worth of net inflows last week. That is pretty good. We're going to be talking about Ethereum researchers' proposal to 100x the performance for Ethereum over the next 4 years. Will that make a difference? Want to check in with all the rest of the L1s as well, because that's an important conversation that we've been having at the moment. And then finally, we got to go there. We're going to touch on the various memes that have caught fire over the last 24 hours and over the weekend. Multiple memes up almost 100% over the last 7 days, up 50% in the last 24 hours. Just a few: Troll, Hosiko, Let's Bonk, MVG. I'm sure Brad knows all of these off by heart and has been tracking them with precision, undoubtedly. But we'll get into all of that in a bit more detail later today. I've got Brad Guy as co-host with me. Also got Funky up on stage, who I believe has just touched down in Dubai. So that'll be exciting. Just want to put this out there for everyone listening. Yes, the show is not financial advice. That's the normal message. The second message today is if there is an emergency because of the very amateur setup I have in a Dubai hotel room on the video. So if you're watching in on X video or if you're watching in on YouTube, if there's an emergency, we will be able to switch over quickly to spaces only. That will be the emergency situation. And if anyone's able to put that message out for me, if there is any cutout, I would greatly appreciate that. If you just comment under the space or tag the Modern Market in a tweet, that'd be helpful. Try to retweet it as we make that switch if the video goes down, which it might, but hopefully it won't. So those are the two notices. Before we get into it, Brad, how are you doing today? It's Monday, it's the 28th of April. I've noticed a bit of a spring in everyone's step and a bit of a spring in your step as well. How are you doing?
I do have a spring in my step. The spring comes from trying to change my lights. Seeing myself next to you because it's so stark in day. Like I'm blue. I'm blue. I don't like it. You're a nice yellow hue. You look natural. You look good. You're glowing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm trying to adjust.
It's 3 p.m. The sun's shining. It's warm.
Yeah. It is 4 a.m. It is dark. It's cold. There's some blue light. I got my purples in the background, but things are good. Yeah, I had a good weekend. My girl's still out of town, so I got a lot. Did you see my post on my bread furniture?
I saw the bread furniture.
Dude,
That's very good. So this is what you do with your free time when the missus is out of town. You just really get the bread art.
No, to be clear, no. This is a with or without the girl trend.
Okay.
So last weekend, if you recall, I had my bread balloon. I had hot air balloon. My bread hot air balloon. So, and before that, it was the bread plates at the farmer's market. Like that's what kicked it all off. Is I got the picture of someone literally just had bread plates at a farmer's market. I took a picture. I was like, oh, hey, I set up my farmer's market stand. Everyone come enjoy. And a lot of people were like, dude, you're taking this bread thing serious. Like, why do you have a bread stand?
Why would you take it unseriously? You're gonna not take the bread seriously?
Well, now I am. So I did that, and then I was like, okay, well, fuck it. I'm now, because of the advances in modern technology, every weekend I'm going to post a new bread thing and see how far I could take it before people like just don't think I'm real. So like last week I did the bread hot air balloon, where it's like, okay, oh, I'm going to New York, load it up. I'll see you guys in a few days because it's going to take me a while. And then this week I turned my entire furniture in my living room into a bunch of bread things. I'm just going to keep doing bread shit. And people modified it. They gave me moldy bread because they said I left my windows open. Someone today made it peanut butter and jelly bread on all of them. Can you imagine sitting on peanut butter and jelly furniture? Probably. I mean, you're gonna have to now because I said it. But
now that you've set the scene and you've kind of explained it, yes, I can now imagine it. It's not something I would have been able to imagine before, but now I specifically can, because if you sit on the bread, the peanut butter and jelly is going to squidge out of all of the bits, right?
That's very, very
exactly
British of you.
What is going to happen? Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. That's pretty exciting stuff. We're going to get into all of the usual stuff as well, which is also very exciting because the market is looking up, and we've got some big questions to ask around that. Just want to check in with Funky first. if you're able to. I know you're in Dubai as well now. You just touched down. How are you doing, my man? You doing well? Enjoying the climate here?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. So I got here. My plane was ridiculously delayed. I got in at around 2:30. By the time I was at my hotel, it was almost 4 a.m. Decided to. I was gonna try and power through the day, and I unpacked, and then I sat down on the bed. I'm like, "Oh, this is so comfy," and I lied down, and I was out for like 3 hours. Like,
Was it was
all
it
the
the
comfy
heavy
events.
sleep?
Oh, dude, like it was. Yes, like I was just
Where
no
you
dreams,
wake
no
up, you
nothing,
feel
just
like you're
like
wearing
blacked out.
stones.
Yeah, it was tough to get out of bed.
It's hard, man. You
And
just
then
had a very, very long trip.
it was funny because one of the guys who's from New York on the team, he goes outside. He's like, "Man, it's so hot out there." And I walk out, and I'm so used to Florida. I'm like, "This is nice. It's not humid because it's like 96, and that's not, it's typical Florida summertime weather, but without the humidity. So
Give
enjoying
it
it so far.
give it a few hours. Give it a few hours. I think I almost burnt myself just stepping on the way from the sun lounger to the swimming pool. There's like 6 steps you need to take, and I as soon as I took like 2 steps, I realized I have to like run and jump in because the whole thing was just completely burning.
I don't
Um,
know. I think just built different here in America because like I'm kind of with funky where like I'm from the Midwest, so like it was like a swimming pool when you're walking around outside. The humidity's at like 90 something percent. Like you're literally sweating your ass off the second you move around. And now I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and whenever I talk to people, like, oh, it's kind of hot and stuff. I was like, is it your hot or is it like hot hot? Is it like Texas hot or is it Florida hot? Because like that's a different thing. I mean, I'm sure
yeah.
Dubai does have some Dubai hot shit, but um, yeah.
I think it does. We'll see. Let's see how it progresses. But that'll be an interesting thing. We'll keep you up to date on that. We intend to run every single show this week. It might not happen because of the various obligations we have when we're here. But we'll be reporting on things on the ground. I think it'll be quite fun. There's a lot of people who've come, so there should be some interesting things to report from the conference as well. Obviously, it's Token 2049, which is here every single year in Dubai. So look forward to that. But let's get into the main stuff as usual. Let's get up to speed with everything's happening in the market. A lot of good stuff today. We've got the majors with Bitcoin. I'm just going to share my screen for people who are watching in because that is what we always do. Want to keep that here. So we've got Bitcoin up just a percent, to be fair, 94.8K. We've got ETH flat more or less at 1.8. XRP is actually up almost 7% to $2.30. Got BNB flat at 605. Solana is up almost 3%. Reclaimed $150, which is pretty good. Or at least it just sounds good. I don't know how good it is specifically. Sui is up another 7% to $3.70, up 65% on the week. We're going to be talking about various L1s a little bit later today. On the meme coin side of things, it's absolute carnage in a good way, if that is possible. Dogecoin is flat, but everything else is moving. Got Pepe up a couple of percent, Trump's up a couple of percent, Bonk is up 10%, Fartcoin is up 15%, Pengu's up 20%. Pengu's up 142% in the last 7 days. So I think we've missed the bottom. If you were trying to time the bottom, I think that is it. That's done now. Remember, I think Luca came out and said he bought $5 million worth of Pengu yesterday. People talk about the Trump put. I think we had a bit of a Luca put last week. WIF is up 50. Am I looking at that right? Okay, 6% on the day, 50% on the week. SPX is up 7% in the last 24 hours. Popcat's up 12. AI16Z is up 19. A lot of this stuff is just moving. People decided they want to put that risk back on. So that's kind of like that across the board. In terms of the headlines themselves, we have crypto ETFs registering $3.4 billion worth of net inflows last week, which is the third largest on record according to CoinShares. We'll touch in a little bit on those numbers and why we think that's so significant. We've also got the Ethereum researcher proposing a 100-fold increase in performance for ETH over the next 4 years. I want to get Brad to kind of explain what is going on there. Does ETH have a chance to fix this stuff in the next 4 years, or trying to catch up with these other L1s that are clearly more performant at the moment, even if they don't have some of the qualities of ETH when it comes to decentralization and censorship resistance. And then finally, talked about some of the memes that we might be familiar with over the last few months, but we also have these new memes that are moving. So you've got Troll up 50%, MVG, which is one of the most ridiculous things. It's like one man versus 100 gorillas. That's the discussion going on online. And so they made a meme of it, and it's up it's gone to almost 4 mil, up 234% in the last 24 hours.
That feels backwards to me. Should it not be 100 men against one gorilla?
I just didn't even look into it. Like I did. I think you're right. Instinctively, as soon as you said that, like it doesn't even make sense. Where's the 100? It's just MVG is the meme. Man versus gorilla. Where's the 100? How do we know? Oh no, it's meant to be 100 gorillas, isn't it? I think.
If it's 100 gorillas, that doesn't make any sense to me. Gorillas are bigger, they're stronger. I just did the recent like have you seen the AI test where they have like you can choose, it was like 3 gorillas, 7 crocodiles, 15 wolves, 50 hawks, 10,000 rats, and you have to pick the best 2, and the 2 that you pick have to defend you against everything else in the group. Like that's the test for AI, to like what's your reasoning for picking these things to defend you, kind of like that. It's like you need more numbers if you're doing man versus gorilla on the man side.
You do,
unless he has a gun.
Okay. I mean, Takeoff Tone in the YouTube comments has literally just said that. I mean, they're saying it's 100 men and 1 gorilla. But then they also just said what you just said, unless it's 1 man with guns. Maybe that'll be the separate meme. It'll be like 1 man with guns versus 100 gorillas. Then that can be the next one. Okay, so that's how nonsensical it seems to have got. But all of those things are moving. You also had Housecoin over the last week, in the weekend, going crazy. Went up insane amount. I think it went as high as 70 mil at one point in time. So we'll touch in on all of those and talk about them. Some notable other price action, as we talked about Pengu already. That's actually got back to 1 billion FDV now, up almost 25% on the day, up 150% on the last 7 days. Virtuals, interestingly, is up 15% to 1.3 billion, up 114% on the week. So that's obviously the AI ecosystem, AI agent ecosystem on base. And in the top 50, you had Monero being the biggest mover, up 18%, and Tau up 10%. We touched on Tau last week as the kind of AI, maybe longer term play that's maybe slightly less speculative. It's modeled around Bitcoin's issuance, kind of as a way to reward training the AI. So everything's moving. Just want to point those ones out. Some notable sales on the NFT side. You had ACK. Some of this art is really selling. ACK God of Shadows sold for 27.15 ETH. Xcopy Death's Hand. This one I'm showing. I've never actually seen this edition of Xcopy. It's pretty cool. That sold for 45 ETH. That's how cool it was. 45 ETH worth of coolness. And then some Pudgy Penguins changed hands. Pudgy Penguins actually up in general, almost, let's just double check, up 10% in the last 24 hours, almost reclaiming a 12 ETH floor. Whether that's to do with the Pengu rise as well. I don't know 100% how these two things interact, the liquid token and the NFT, but a lot of action on the NFT as well.
I sold my Goblin Town this weekend.
Into some kind of pump, or you just felt like selling it, or what was the thinking?
Nope. They so there's some rumors going around about them. You remember how they had the up only game or whatever, where they had to sit there and climb, and they got a little bit of a asset appreciation over that time. I don't know. They released a game. You could climb, you can get a skin that was a goblin or whatever. They're doing another round of that, and the game itself is like, it's based on audio. There's like, you sit there and you play the game, and if you need to like slow down the game so that you're better at it, you have to actually like scream like a goblin and do your thing. So it's like gets the streamers to be a little weird and wacky. And apparently the game is actually fun. So
okay,
it's cool. It's different. It's pumping a little bit. I've been holding on to this thing for like literally 2 years, I think I saw at this point. And I got out at break even. So it's a win on my part. I actually, you know why I bought it the first time?
Why?
You won't guess.
Because you wanted to be a part of those spaces where they just made goblin noises.
No, this dude. If I had to do that, the thing got up to like 10 ETH. This time is because there was one dude who was like all in on goblins, all in. Like he was the Goblin King, I think it was his name, and he just this giga loaded dude in Southeast Asia. I forget which region specifically. I think it's in Bali, maybe. He owns a couple islands, and he literally is like, if you have a goblin, you can come to Bali on one of my resorts. And he flew out a bunch of people to do that. And I was like, look, if this guy's doing this shit to like try to pump this collection, like he literally paid for the plane to get these people to do this shit, private jet, all this shit. And he's like, if he's paying for people to do this stuff, he's like, this stuff's got to pump, right? Like the value here is ridiculous. Bought it. It did not pump. It sat there down in the dumps for a little bit and finally came back up to around where I bought it. And then I sold.
I don't know if I'm taking the private plane of a mysterious island
He's
owner.
not. Yeah,
Okay.
He's always posting pictures of his like all these rich shit. He's like, he's flexing all this stuff.
Okay, that's fine. I was imagining like a undoxed goblin NFT profile picture telling you that they're gonna fly
So I think
somewhere
that was
around
his
the world.
PFP, but he did post pictures of himself and like his islands and like all the shit that he has and like eventually the trip that he took everyone on and like all this stuff. Yeah.
Well, that is utility. That is what we want. That is what we want from our NFTs. Private planes around the world, ideally. Well, that's what Brad wants, clearly. Even if
He
they don't
capitulated, by the way. He sold out of everything.
Okay, so no more private chips. A couple other interesting ones. Looking at this chart, Creeps is up 33% in the last 24 hours to a 2 ETH floor. Little Pudgies are up 5% as well. Miladies are up 4% to 3.4. We haven't spoken about Miladies for a while. They're still 3.5 ETH, so quite significant, I would say. Getting into the rest of the news, just to get you up to speed with everything else, there was $1 billion of USDT minted on Tron, so stablecoins keep rising. SEC approves 3 XRP futures-based ETFs to go live on April the 30th. Magic Block Solana L2 announces a $7.5 million seed round with Solana co-founder included as an angel. Be curious for your thoughts there, Brad, in a second.
Nuance to that one. Yeah, we'll come back to it.
I think that requires probably a little bit of explanation for people, because people might be scratching their heads as to why Solana has an L2, but I'm sure you're going to be able to shed some light there. Just in the final other bits of news for you to know, Solana DeFi protocol Loopscale exploited for $5.8 million. Nike faces a $5 million class action accusing the company of promoting unregistered securities. This is for their work with Artifact, which they then kind of shut down and abandoned that kind of project. The Yeet Casino, run by Mando KBM, announced double airdrop points for in-casino activity up until April the 29th. We are not sponsored by the Yeet Casino, but I do keep mentioning that. I think it's going to be a
Have you gotten in?
Airdrop.
Have you started playing it all? I've been meaning to. It's been like every now and then I'll be walking around like, fuck, I need to play with Yeet. And then I just keep doing that like 3 or 4 times now, but I haven't touched it. I'm actually going to open a browser window right now.
I've got a feeling not a lot of countries you can. Okay, so I don't know the details yet because I haven't I've signed up and I did the referral system, but I haven't. I think in order to start betting, you might need to do the KYC part, which I'm obviously not opposed to doing, but maybe if you're in certain jurisdictions, like you're not even allowed to do that. So I think there might be a thing that's preventing people because it's like, well, if I need to KYC, I can't actually do it.
Did you tweet your referral? Are you going to be my influencer for this one?
Yes.
You did. Yes. Sick. Okay, I'm going to go click that.
So you can at least click the link and then tell everyone else to sign up via your link, because then they've got quite a good referral program. Yeah. So the reason why I keep mentioning it is they're like super respected people. If you are going down that more degenerate way, it's also backed by Dragonfly, which is literally tier 1 fund in the space. I think it's going to be a decent airdrop. They're being quite explicit about it. They're not hiding that fact. I think it'll probably be good if you want to go down the gambling route, so long as you don't lose more money than you're going to gain from the airdrop. Cerebro in the final point is up 15% as the main account founder crashes out, imitating Kanye West tweeting style. I don't know if you saw that, Brad. It's kind of ludicrous. Don't necessarily want to spend a huge amount of time on it. It was kind of odd to me, but yeah, it was weird. The Cerebro account has lost the plot.
Why is it /founder there? Is it because the founder is like the one who like filters
the founder account? The founder account was also losing the plot. So everything related to that coin is losing the plot, but it was up 15% anyway. So strange activity there. But that is the Web3 roundup to get up to speed with everything that's been going on in space in the last 24 hours and over the weekend. Before we get into the main headlines, which I think are super interesting today, Brad, I think I know which direction you're going to take this. Do you want to speak to this Solana L2?
Yeah, nerd shit.
I think, yeah, you can stir up some stuff if you want. But I guess the first question is, why does Solana need an L2? Because some people might not might even have that question mark, because Solana's always been pushed forward as this thing which is so much more performant than all these other chains. It's got a great UX. It's super fast. People are generally quite happy with how it performs already. So why does it need an L2? And then, you know, is it appropriate for the founders of Solana to be investing in the L2?
Yeah, they're describing this. So first of all, it's a permissionless ecosystem. People can build whatever the fuck they want. Solana is a blockchain. I can build an L2. I can build an L3 on top of this L2 that goes to L. I can do whatever the fuck I want, right? Anyone can.
Yes.
So it's like,
good point.
First thing is like Solana doesn't say they need it. People are going to build it anyways. Second thing is this one is a little unique, whereas like the current L2s in the Ethereum ecosystem, wholly separate blockchains that kind of just like push some data to Ethereum eventually, right? So like for Megi specifically, we push state roots down to Ethereum. That doesn't mean a smart contract can access that state root and extract the data and say, oh, Brett just did something on Mega ETH. Let's give him some value on Ethereum, right? It's like there's different ways in which these blockchains interact with each other. This one specifically, Magic Block, they're calling themselves an ephemeral rollup. And they say ephemeral, for people who aren't familiar with the term, is ephemeral is something that like pops up and goes away, right? And what these guys do specifically is they lock an account on Solana mainnet, right? So it could be anything, right? A personal account, and they just lock it so that no one else can access it while they're like from mainnet directly. And they do all this shit off chain on like a separate thing. They have a sequencer, they have all this stuff, all this computation, and they do all this shit. And then once all the shit is done, whether it's a game or anything, they push all of this stuff down to Solana mainnet and publish it to the contract I think the speed is like every 400 milliseconds. And then all of that data on Solana mainnet is then accessible by anyone else on Solana mainnet. Like it's just composable with like normal contracts and their programs that they have there. So it's an ephemeral rollup is what they call themselves. Second thing, why does it need to exist? This is actually the bull case for MEGETH, right? Like whenever I sit here and people listen to me talk about it, I say there is a subset of user experiences that we can deliver that literally no mainnet chain with consensus can do. You cannot do it. That's the Fluffle game that we did. It's the really quick iteration speed, right? It's the 10 milliseconds, 15 milliseconds of 100 milliseconds of fast interactions, right? Solana cannot do that.
And just to clarify for people, when you said chains with consensus can't do it, what do you mean by that?
So like blockchains is just like a data structure, right? You don't have to have consensus with like Mega ETH, right? We have a chain of blocks that you have. It's just that we don't have 15 nodes creating the blocks simultaneously and agreeing on the blocks, right? We have one thing creating the blocks, and then once that one thing is done, it gives it off to something else to then create the blocks, right? It's a leader that changes over time that creates the blocks, right? There's no consensus there. There's no agreement there. For any given window, there's one entity that creates the blocks, right? It's actually really close to Solana. Solana has one leader that creates a block at a given time, and then it passes it off to consensus, right? But because you have consensus, it takes a little bit of time to agree on shit, right? That's what materializes in block times in the EVM world. It's not quite the same with Solana, but that's like why there's a little bit of lag time between you submitting your thing and that thing being true. So chains like MEGETH and now Magic Block, like because they have a single thing creating the block, they don't have to come to an agreement. There's no lag time of it to being true, which means apps can use it, they can ingest it, they can show it to users because it's instantly true. It creates a unique experience. So it's like this is a small pinch or slice of the world that chains with consensus, that's SUI, that's Aptos, that's Ethereum mainnet, that's Solana, that's Avalanche, cannot do because of physics. It takes time to send messages around the world to agree on shit. And that's what they're trying to do. So like they even, like you may not have seen it, but they copied our Fluffle game after we did it. Because like, oh, well, we can do that too. Yeah. It's like they sit there and they engineered their own to try to copy it and say like, oh, look, we could do it too on Solana World. So like that's why they need to exist, because that experience is something that Solana cannot compete on. That is something that Avalanche cannot compete on. You have to have this kind of construction to be able to do it. And they're kind of replicating that.
Fascinating. Okay, so this is ultimately the point, right? Even the best of L1s, which are most successful because they have up to date been better than ETH. I think in some way, if you evaluate the way the last couple of years have gone, like for you to be a more successful L1, like ETH was the standard. You just need to beat that, right? Once you can beat that and be more performant than that, you're like in a really strong position. Now people are obviously trying to, there's many people that can beat ETH, whether that's its own L2s or whether that's the Solana ecosystem or whether that's Sui or whatever. So all these people that are more performant than ETH now. So now there's actually things that you can push the tech further and create these additional experiences that require faster performance. So
yeah, there
that's
was two verticals. The last one was like TPS, right? Ethereum TPS was slow as shit. There's like 20. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. 20 TPS. Solana came along. Solana's doing like 1200 TPS, right? It's really good. It's fast. It holds more people. Everyone's happier. It's cheaper because they can handle more, right? Like it allows for that environment. The next vertical that a lot of these chains are competing on, specifically us, that's what we want to be like the number one in, is latency. It's the time, the iteration speed. Like that's the thing that we're maximizing for. And that's what these guys are trying to compete on too. And there's a lower bound of where the consensus chains can get, and that's around 200 milliseconds, right? Unless you start doing some weird shit with like multi-local consensus, but like you can't get below that threshold. And like our threshold is at 1/20th of what they can get to in the optimal scenario, like just to show like the magnitude of difference. It's the whole reason I joined the team. Is like there's a vertical that no other chain can go to, and we're going there and we're going to be the best.
I like it. That's an excellent explanation, I think, of what is going on there, and why this is required, even on chains that are already quite performant. Maybe a final question on this, Brad, before we get into the main stuff today. My view on founders investing in, actually, maybe I have a slightly nuanced view on this. I think
I came to their defense.
Yeah, like instinctively, my thought on this is that yes, the founders should be completely able to invest in all of the things, right? Even if, I mean, this is hardly in competition with, like, the whole point of this is to further the Solana ecosystem and make it able to do more things. That's my reading of the situation. Is that how you would read it as well?
Yeah, a lot of people try dunking on them. They're like, "Oh my god, you guys have you guys have been making fun of L2s this whole time. Now you have an L2 and you invested in them. Fuck you, man." And I think it's nuanced, right? So like the thing that they constantly criticize the Ethereum L2 world about is because the constructions that came to market for early L2s is diametrically opposed to what like the values of core Ethereum, right? Ethereum's big thing is like, we're decentralized, no one owns us, we're doing all this stuff, like we're maximally all this shit to the detriment of the user, right? Because like the user experience was objectively just not awesome because of these values. And then they went headlong into advocating for an L2 roadmap that had multi-sigs owned by one party, like Coinbase is daddy, right? Like that. So like that was the thing that they were making fun of. And not only that, but they were changing the L1 roadmap in order to enable Base, right? And enable to give Coinbase an edge, right? So it's like you guys are not only like advocating for this stuff, you're literally sacrificing your own resources for Ethereum mainnet to build it in a way that daddy Coinbase can come along and like be the future, right? That doesn't make any sense, right? That's what they were making fun of. I came to totally Emert's defense here because I was like, if capital allocation is all they're giving to these people and they're not actually changing the Solana roadmap to enable Magic Block to build a better blockchain ephemeral rollup L2, whatever the fuck you want to call it, like that's the best way to do it because those L2s are going to exist because it's a permissionless system. And like, the Solana mainnet is not going to like give an inch on like what it's going to continue to try to be the best Solana mainnet it can be for Solana mainnet, for Solana users, right? So if it's just them accelerating something that's adding value to the ecosystem and not like directly trying to like give them developer resources and roadmap items and changes to Solana mainnet, I think that's the best way to actually like encourage growth of the ecosystem.
So I agree with all of that. Where I was going to have a little bit of challenge maybe is, I think sometimes you see these newer founders who are leading a chain. I can't give specific examples of this, but I think this has happened. What would be your view if, okay, so this is like Solana founders investing in Solana infra. What if it was like Solana founders investing in L2s, or like, because they know it's going to be super valuable, but it's kind of not.
Yeah.
Any
I
view
mean,
on that?
they've invested in Ethereum L2s too. Like Mert's an investor in Eclipse. Mert's on a mega ETH cap table. Like, yeah, like there's money making opportunities, and then there's like, yeah, there's the philosophical like implementation details that you have. I don't see any problem with it.
Yeah, I think maybe the I was talking about something else today on the timeline. I think it was about Dubai. And interestingly, the two bits of pushback, I don't know if these two things are related necessarily, but there's always someone that brings like a moral angle to all of these things. It's like it would be wrong, they come up with like a moral argument against Dubai. They come up with a moral argument of like, okay, well, if you're in Solana, why are you investing in the other one? It's like
Yeah.
detrimental to the thing. I don't know. I think in the angel space, you're probably throwing a lot of darts at a lot of things, and so maybe that's
Yep.
fine. Anyway, okay, it's probably a bigger conversation there to have on like how to think about the investing stuff, but we want to keep it moving today, at least, to get into some of the main headlines. Brad, I wonder whether look, so we're going to talk ETFs and we're going to talk like the meme stuff because got some big questions there about what's been happening. But since we've already been on this more technical stuff, do you want to actually go ahead and just take us through what
Yep.
the news was coming out of Ethereum about this like huge plan they have to really scale the L1 over the next 4 years?
Yeah, Dankrad Feist is a researcher who proposed a 100-fold increase in performance over the next 4 years for Ethereum mainnet. So Dankrad has actually been someone that has defended or pushed for, advocated for Ethereum's mainnet scale for a while. Basically, the opposite of Justin Drake. Anyways, this specific package comes in the form of EIP 9698. Maybe you'll hear that over the next few months. Just that's what it is. And it introduces deterministic gas limit growth schedule with 10-fold increases over 2 years, which is roughly 164,000 epochs. Now, so again, that's a 100-fold increase over those 4 years, and in total, and that should net to about 2,000 TPS at the end of the 4-year cycle. Now, just for relative scale, like I said, Solana is doing roughly 1,300 TPS today, and it's handling like the majority of the load of the ecosystem. I think it's important to note that if you anticipate global block space demand to grow, like that scale will not be enough just for hand stuff, but it is a really good thing. It's just, if you think 4 years from now, that number needs to be higher, right? So it's good. I would actually like to see block times come down because this, yes, allows you and I to sit there and have more transactions simultaneously. Like that's what the gas limit is, just compute on chain. But it does not improve the user experience materially for any given specific user, right? So like you and I still, even though we can submit our things side by side and have gas still be low, it does not allow for the iteration speed of that transaction to get confirmed faster. I think the UX needs to be improved with block times, but this is an isolated thing. I think it's good. The risk that you potentially have here in the overhead is that as you can increase gas costs, you increase the bandwidth requirements of nodes, right? Because like gas cost is just compute, which means more transactions. More transactions means more literal data that needs to go between the nodes in order to continue the network operating. And that means you need each individual node in the ecosystem to have the bandwidth to be able to download the nodes to be able to keep up with the tip of the chain. So the risk here is that you lose nodes because bandwidth requirements go up. Therefore, decentralization goes down, diversity goes down.
Which is obviously one of the things that ETH is most kind of proud of, in a sense, in terms of its qualities. Okay, so that's an excellent explanation in general. What's your maybe more specific view on it? Is this enough? Like, look, the realistic situation is that ETH has fallen so far behind in terms of sentiment. Okay, often price leads narrative, and the price has been lagging, so that's one thing. But I think it's fair to say that Solana has executed brilliantly. Other chains are now really performing well now too. Is this sufficient? Given that, in 4 years' time, the other chains are going to keep moving as well.
Yes, nothing else is going to stop. So that's important to remember. I think where the value of this comes from is it is a long-term signal to application builders that Ethereum will scale, right? You need to be able to build.
That was not obvious for a while, right?
Correct.
There was a genuine position for a while where it's like when we do not need to scale the L1, the L2s will do the scaling. We'll do the scaling, and then loads of activity will go there, and the L1 can just stay slow and be a little bit more expensive. But that's a specific signal to change that focus.
Correct. It is a signal to applications that if you stay here, like we will try to grow with demand and you will not be boxed out by our limitations. And your application can continue to exist and grow with us here without having to go and either build an app chain or go to an L2 specifically, or just be valuable. So I think it is important for bringing applications back home to push something like this through to show that Ethereum is serious about scaling the L1, and it's in the past has not even done that with just like modern upgrades to the world, right? So like everyone's familiar with Moore's law. Moore's law is just that like every 2 years, like was it like CPU the whatever, something on the microprocessor just doubles like every 2 years. It's basically just that like your things get more robust every 2 years and can basically stay about the same cost wise. And it's just that Ethereum over that time frame has just like decided we're not changing anything, right? Like we're staying the exact same as we were 5 years ago, even though the cost to actually the cost you deploy into your hardware or to your bandwidth is actually increasing for the same dollar amount, right? So like you can spend the same amount of money, it's accessible to the same amount of people. It's just we haven't scaled to meet that. So this is a signal that, or it could be that like, hey, we're catching up to what the world can just accommodate, just like basal level, and then also like we're looking into the future to continue to grow this stuff alongside that some of those laws.
I like it. Very interesting stuff. I think that's really helpful to go to. Thanks, Oxy, as well, just for a quick notice. If the Spaces is not working or whatever, I know at the beginning of the show I said if in an emergency everyone would move to Spaces if the video goes down. Similarly, if the audio goes down in Spaces, the YouTube actually seems to be working fine. If you don't even know we have a YouTube channel, we do have a YouTube channel. You can go to our profile, click through. We are streaming live on YouTube on video, and it seems to be maybe even working better there at the moment than Spaces. So just know we're running like a bit of a mobile setup at the moment as we're traveling. So one or the other, we will be running. We've got 15 minutes left. Got 2 more points to cover. So I think let's go to the ETF stuff first, and then let's close the show with a little bit of speculation. Let's talk memes towards the end of the show. But the first, the next headline I wanted to get to was the crypto ETFs registering $3.4 billion worth of net inflows last week, which is the 3rd largest on record according to CoinShares. So this was the news that, I mean, the numbers last week were just huge. If I share my screen with you here, we will take a look at some of the numbers that we saw last week. We had on the 25th of April, so that was Friday, 380 mil coming in, 24th, 442, 23rd, 917. This is all into Bitcoin, by the way. So 23rd and 22nd, 2 900 mil days. And then on the 21st, you had 380 as well. So really a blockbuster week. Just out of interest for people who might be wondering, like, is ETH seeing anything in comparison? On the ETH side, you had 105 in on the 25th of April, 63 in on 24. On the 23rd, you had 23 out. On the 22nd, you had 38 in. On the 21st, you had 25 out. So still net inflows over the last kind of 7 days on ETH as well. Clearly, Bitcoin is just a completely different beast when it comes to these inflows, though. And I don't think personally that the thesis of ETH receiving significant ETF flows is being proven in any way at the moment. I think if anything, if I'm looking forward, everything that I read, everything that I sense, everything my instinct tells me is that just Bitcoin becomes stronger and stronger in that respect. And that's kind of reflected in my personal portfolio decisions as well. So that's what's happening on that side. Brett, I don't know if you have any additional comments there. I just wanted to give some of the numbers to the audience because I thought that was kind of interesting. But anything else from your perspective here?
Yeah, mine's more on bar charts. So mine's on the literal presentation of this. I wish I could see like the actual flows in just like an up-down bar chart to see like the relative numbers because you can't glean the magnitude of some of these numbers whenever you see it like this, right? Like you're talking
Sure.
about Ethereum versus Bitcoin, right? 917 million on the 23rd. Like that's crazy. And that same day it was negative 24 million in the ETH ETFs, right? Like if I could see those things side by side, that's a net difference of damn near $100 million. That's crazy. I wish, or no, sorry, $1 billion. That's a little bit bigger. That's crazy. And like I wish I could actually just see that side by side. I'm gonna build that dashboard. I'm gonna vibe code it just so you guys have access to it because I think it'd be useful.
Beautiful. Yeah, that would be really helpful because I think that's really helpful to get some sense, right? That's why I presented the ETH ones, but even like knowing how much Bitcoin was having beforehand. Just for context, now that you asked, like the week before for Bitcoin was $0, 106 in, 169 out, 76 in, 1.5 in. And then at the start of April, the first 10 days of April, you had 1 mil out, 150 out, 127 out. So having 400 in, 900 in, 900 in, 400 in, like market difference in kind of shift in focus there, I think. Okay, so that's on the ETF side. Maybe one bigger question here, Brad, that I've been thinking about is, I mean, obviously all of this stuff, Bitcoin started to behave a little bit, I don't want to say entirely like, but like a little bit more like gold as all of this stock sell-off was happening. I think people were concluding that because of the trade war with China, a lot of stocks were getting sold off. That's why they were maybe buying aggressively into gold, and that was why that price action happened. And Bitcoin just didn't seem to see the same type of sell-off because there was this structural change in the way that the world is positioning itself that meant that holding US stocks and maybe even treasuries as well, when that yield was going up, was going to be less palatable for some foreign nations. Whereas Bitcoin doesn't have that counterparty risk in that respect, right? So, as they are getting more annoyed with America as part of these negotiations, they don't need to sell off Bitcoin to express that annoyance, whereas they can sell stocks to express that annoyance. So I think that was what was happening for a little bit. But what I've noticed now is that there was still a little bit of chatter, right? Over the weekend, I think the Chinese team told Trump to like stop I can't remember if that was Friday or over the weekend, like stop making things up. We haven't been talking. And then I think Besant said over the weekend, yes, we have been talking again. We spoke last week, and I think maybe they denied it again.
So ridiculous.
It's an entirely ridiculous situation. But the thing that I'm noting two things. One, I think media is always our media and research is a great metric for drawing conclusions for things. And there was at one point in time where I felt obligated to put macro as a headline every single day. And then we'd throw to Legendary and he'd have to tell us who said what, because it was moving the markets every single day. This tweet was moving the market. This Truth Social post was moving the market. And so we had to speak about it every single day. What you're noticing now, I think, is yes, this chatter is still happening, but the implications for the market, at least immediately, are not there. And so I don't feel like I need to have a segment to say, right, let's talk about macro for 10 minutes because stock market is down like 3%, Bitcoin's tanked 4%, and everything is red across the board because people are super fearful. If anything, now people feel the market is expressing that the bottom is probably in. Not only is Bitcoin looking incredibly solid now, up in the 90s, but you have memes rallying aggressively. The S&P 500, just for context, I know there's various things that have made it go down, and I know that maybe arguably we're still not out of the woods in some way, but it's 5% down from the top of the year. Like year to date, it's only 5% down. And so I don't know if that's as bad a situation as people paint it. I know there's still all kinds of things that still need to be worked out as part of this deal. But I think it's going to be a longer time to negotiate. Remember, I spoke about Brexit as an example of what this whole situation was reminding me of. And the solution is just not fast, but the world does carry on. And I think what people are realizing at the moment is there might be some pain, yes, but the world is going to carry on. I don't know if there'll be a deal announced tomorrow, but it's going to take a long time. Like the Brexit deals, when the UK left the EU, it took ages and ages for people to negotiate the different deals because you can't do this in 24 hours. And they get done eventually, and but what people realize is that the world does carry on. And so I think there's a little bit of that feeling at the moment, which is allowing people to maybe put a little bit of risk back on and mean that all the day-to-day chatter is making a bit less of a headline impact on anyone. Curious to hear your thoughts, Funky. You've got your hand raised. You are, very curious for your thoughts on what I just shared, how you think Bitcoin is behaving, and more the kind of general macro situation, since we've just touched on that too.
Yes. So the first thing I was going to say is that clearly you have been doing crypto for far too long, B, because when you say 5% down for the S&P is not a big deal. It's a huge
It's not a big
deal,
deal.
right?
It's not a big deal.
But it's 9% on average in a year it goes up. So 5% down, especially almost halfway into the year, is probably still a big deal for most people who are equities holders. That
Very
said,
good
I
point.
think you're
That is
spot
actually a
on.
very good contextual point. So appreciate that.
I think spot on though, in terms of just like the overall, macro conditions. Everybody's printing, right? Whether they're doing it in stealthy ways, right? You look at the ski cut essay that Arthur Hayes wrote a couple weeks ago. They're just finding new ways to print without printing, to actually move liquidity into the global markets without actually having to reduce rates from the Fed. This is the whole thing that I gave you that screenshot that I dropped in the bottom mark in Discord about that part, what the Fed's really doing right now. So I think these things are going to continue. Bitcoin is always going to be that leading indicator, the fastest horses in the race, and so on and so forth when it comes to these assets coming back. I'm sure that the equities markets are going to turn around, especially if we get to that 90-day period. And whether or not they're talking or not talking, it's probably going to be, okay, let's get back to business. But it doesn't change the fact that everybody's, look at the DXY right now. It's absolutely getting pummeled. We're seeing the value of the dollar decline. All these other currencies are going to have to try and do financial chicanery in their own economies to kind of stay on par with us. So all these things are just good for Bitcoin and our whole space ultimately.
Good stuff. Appreciate the additional thoughts, man. And yeah, I think I watched a very good interview with Arthur Hayes the other day. It was a forward guidance one with Blockworks, where he kind of really walked through the ways in which he thinks the printing will happen, and actually just made the broader point as well. It's not going to be printing in the way that it was printing before, because people know the printing is bad, and so they can't politically say that they're going to print in the way that they have done before. So that's probably worth a watch and just worth keeping an eye on. So there's that. Okay, last 6 minutes. Wanted to get into the meme coin side of things. Stuff's really going off. Like we talked about it at the top of the show already. Just as a quick recap again, we have things like Pudgy Penguins up 16% today, up 150% on the week. We have WIF up 5% on the day, 50% in the week, SPX 8 and 30% on the week. Popcat's up 60% on the week. So, I mean, feels strange calling these memes like established memes, but just because they've been around for like, I don't know, 6 months, 12 months or whatever.
Lindy memes.
Becoming, Lindy memes. You got AIXBT up 75% on the week. That was our favorite AI agent from like 4 months ago or something. So you've got those memes moving, but you've also got this huge new set moving as well. So you've got things like, just as a quick recap as well, you've got things like Troll moving 50% to 24 mil. You've got MVG, the one we spoke about at the top of the show, trying to figure out if this is one man versus 100 gorillas or one gorilla versus 100 men. I can't remember which way around it was, but it's up 234% on the day to 3.8 million. You've got Housecoin going up to what was it, 70 mil at some point. Hosiko in the last 24 hours hitting 30 mil, up 200%. Let's Bonk hitting up 30% to 12 mil. The key thing here, look, it's very easy to just go through these things and just say names of tickers and just say that they're up. Like, that's not the interesting question here, I don't think. The more interesting question is to ask, what do we think about new memes versus old memes? One of the things that I think would have happened 6 to 12 months ago is that if you were like piling into Doge, for example, you would have seen like you actually would have seen a decent return if you had like bought and held that whole period of time, but you might not have seen the crazy returns like you did as you keep cycling through the rest of the memes, right? You also had Whiff, which went completely crazy at one point in time, then settled down, and then you had this whole next wave of memes coming. So I've got two questions for you, Brad, kind of on a philosophical perspective. Well, since I know you don't play in the memes game that much, but you must have observed how these things played out. The first question is new memes versus old. Like, do you think people like AIXBT enough to send it back to where it was? Do you think people like what were the other ones we just mentioned?
I mean, you're just asking about bag bias, right? Like, is some of the stuff going to have enough bag bias that people are going to try to repump it? I think like AIXBT specifically, I think his reputation or brand is tarnished enough at this point that you're not going to have these like euphoric, oh, this person is going to replace all KOLs, like we're doomed situation, which is what the old thesis was, right? You're like,
yes,
well, what the fuck? If he's dominating the Apper leaderboard, if he's ever present, throwing out 657 tweets a day, replying to everyone, aggregating all the data, like we can't keep up with that, and we have no shot. Lucky for
and that
us,
thesis is dead now, right?
It is, because he's like a delusional spam bot at this point, right? No one is willing to give him the time of day, other than Funky, because they came after Funky. I saw that he was attacked this past weekend because of a 20% APY coin, I believe it was. But yeah, like I think that some of the sheen has worn off on some like the AI agent sector, but there are memes that are going to try to go back to all-time highs just because shelling points, right?
And do you think, so this is the thing I'm thinking, this is the way I'm thinking about it. I think two things. One, I remember there was a time in November last year, there was one specific show, I need to go back and find the clip, where I specifically said, like, guys, this is the time. Like, this is it. If you want to play now. It was like, it was all set up. I think Trump had won. There was a couple of them, or maybe he was about to win, or he won. And you had these couple of months before inauguration where it's like, go crazy. If you want to play the game, this is the time to play. We're definitively correct in that kind of assessment. I don't feel like that now necessarily. So I'm just putting that out there now, that I can see these things are up like huge amounts. I just don't feel like it's the same feeling that I had then. So that's like the first thing I'd say. I don't know if I'm right on that, but I definitely don't feel with the same level of confidence that, right, this is it. Like, just go, like, take your swings now. That's because that's specifically what I felt in November last year. However, and then the second thing I think is all these things, every different wave we have, it does feel like the energy is lost a little bit. It's like that meme of the roller coaster where the first wave is the highest and then the next one's slightly lower and the next one's slightly lower. And I wonder whether the mechanisms by which all these things get launched now, it's so easy. And, you know, maybe even in the 6 months just gone, we had Pump Fun, which was the exclusive way to do it. But now you've even got more platforms that are trying to take that market share. So not only Pump Fun coins specifically that want to kind of capture this activity, but you've got Radium doing their thing as well. I think Bonk just kind of put out their launch pad as well. I just think there's too many coins for these things to go high and like
dispersion, yeah,
as high as before. So this 30 mil number, for example, seems to be one that coins can get to quite happily. And then it gets hard to push through. So you've obviously had Fartcoin pushing through in the last, well, Fartcoin pushing back through. Obviously it went super high, it came down and has now managed to go back up. So yeah, I think my general conclusion is, I think the bottom's probably in, but at the same time, like I'm not as confident with the way the attention flows in this space and the mechanisms by which these things get launched, that you're going to have as much mania as the time before, which is in turn less mania than you had the time before that as well. Curious for your reflection there before we close out.
Yeah, I mean, I broadly agree. Like we're launching coins at an unprecedented rate these days. Now with like Zora coming on the stage, right? They were for a given day launching more coins than even Pump Fund was. So like we had just overnight doubled the coins that were being launched into the ether. Now the average value of one of those coins was like 1/100th of the ones on Pump Fund, but still like it's just more coins for people to get distracted by. And now I'm actually hearing that virtuals are starting to heat back up the ecosystem. So like that's something I'm trying to give a little bit of attention to. But yeah, dispersion is real.
One other point. It's not just dispersion actually, and then we're definitely going to close out for today. It's not just the fact that there's dispersion. I was asking a few people I was close to about like their friends and who are the participants left here. I think we definitely have enough capital in the space to pump some of these coins really high if we want to. So like if people decide house coin is the one that people want to pump, it can go. Like there is the there is the appetite and the capital to do that within the people that are here. However, I don't know if there's many new entrants that are interested in what has been happening. So when I spoke to my friends who were in with me in the first cycle, like NFTs, who then left, there was no appetite for them even to get back in for the memes. They had no appetite. They did not come back for that. After seeing what happened with Kelsier, and I don't even know if those full stories are completely out yet. Like I think there'll be more news on what happened with the Trump coin and what happened with the Millet coin and all of these other things. I think there's more stories to come out there. I don't think there are people who saw some of that news and thought, oh, do you know what? It looks like memes are back. Let's go back and like if we hadn't even come back for that, oh, now is the time to come back. I think retail in general, A, is tapped out, and B, I mean, this debt situation in general, which is kind of tying into it as well. So many different mechanisms I'm seeing for people to buy things which ordinarily would never have been bought with debt, and now it's just debt. Like buy your burritos from Deliveroo with debt. Buy your cars with, I mean, cars already there's debt or anyway, but it's more than I've ever seen before. I don't think there's appetite for new people to come in, although the people here.
They don't have to be tapped out though. Like it's a momentum thing too. Like you don't come in and first day throw in $100,000, right? You have to build up confidence over time. Like you start off like, oh, you know, if they're $100, oh, my $100 turned into 1,000. Oh, I'm gonna go $1,000. I'm gonna try to double that. Oh, cool, got to 5,000. Cool. And then like you slowly start to scale up and you go, oh man, this is a real opportunity. I'm gonna deposit 10,000. And like, oh shit, this actually feels pretty good. I'm getting confident. Now I'm gonna deposit another 25,000. And like so all of that takes place over months, right? So it's like. Yeah, like you're not going to go like all of a sudden, hey, you know, we're back. Like, oh, I'm confident I'm going to $800,000 into a shitter. Like some people might do that, but the vast majority of participants require a long duration of confidence building in order for them to get the ability or have the appetite, I should say, to deposit more money and put more stuff at risk. And that just takes time. So like we've had some recent events that scared the shit out of a lot of people, made them feel like the game wasn't fair. Like it's going to take time to build up the confidence to like get back to that place again.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even be confident that game's just still not running. Like, how do you even stop that game when these things launch? But I'd be curious to analyze that a bit more. Funky, your hand is raised. Come back with a quick take on that for us as we close out now.
Just a quick thing on the virtual stuff and the memes popping off there. If you guys haven't been paying attention, I only know this because of being a Vader staker still to this day. So Vader started launching what were called EAOs or early agent offerings. And those were curated by the Vader team. And so what they were doing was if you were getting a points system, you could allocate a certain amount of virtuals into it. It would launch a low market cap and then it would explode. And they were going to like 10x pretty easily. So what virtuals did is they partnered with them. Now you're getting these virgin points, 20% if you just hold virtuals in your token or in your wallet. And then the other 5% is for Vader stakers. So this is why those tokens have both been pumping like mad. you get now access to all these early agent offerings through there. And they've been some crazy numbers, 10Xs, 40Xs, 30Xs, 20Xs. Because what they do is they launch all at the same valuation. I think it's like $114,000. They keep half the tokens for the LP. The rest goes to everybody who actually partakes in these EAOs. And then they're just getting like at least a 3X minimum return. And many of them are going much higher. So there's a lot of hype flowing back into virtuals, flowing back into Vader. So that's why I'm just kind of quickly explaining why those two tokens have been exploding and why there's a huge surge in interest again in virtuals. Just want to give you that at the end of the show.
I like it. That's excellent information. Got to take a bit of a bigger look into that. Appreciate that, Funky. Appreciate everyone in the YouTube comments as well. We've got all kinds of excellent context being shared. Thanks, eBrink as well, saying I need a bread deep dive into Tau subnets. Tau definitely been interesting. Maybe we'll have to take a look into that as well. But all kinds of good activity here, really insightful stuff. We're trying to keep an eye on it as we go through the show, as usual. But guys, that is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it as usual. Just a quick reminder, we are in Dubai. If you haven't already, there were a few people who DM'd me. We're kind of at capacity for our breakfast, which is taking place tomorrow. But if you are here and if you're super keen, you can DM me and I'll try and see if we can get you in. We're going to be doing that quite early tomorrow. So if you're interested and you're here, do let me know. Otherwise, we will see you again tomorrow. Same time, same place. We run this every single day, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. We're live on X video, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify as well. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.